Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now up until this point, my go-to red dot reflex sight has been the Holosun 507K X2. This has been absolutely fantastic. I have no qualms about it, but the reality is this is now at this point on my carry firearm, and I really don't want to remove this and mess with anything with this particular firearm. I need to know this is absolutely dialed in and ready to go at all times. And so the dilemma comes in that as a reviewer, I kind of need some additional optics laying around for reviews, for testing, and when I have other firearms, and that's kind of what I'm running into today. And so a solution at this point here, the Crimson Trace. This is the RAD Micro Pro. This is a green dot. So this is another micro version of a reflex sight that's going to allow me at this point to use this for multiple firearms, not just one, but take it off, put it on different firearms as I go through progressions and on this channel and as I get additional firearms to review in the future. And so this becomes a little bit of a mini series. I'm going to take a look at this today for the first time. Then I actually have two handguns that I'm currently working on. I'm going through iterations with them. I'm getting ready for future releases of those reviews, and I need to cover red dot installation and my overall impressions. So again, the Crimson Trace is going to allow me to do that. So when we get back, a look at the Crimson Trace RAD Micro Pro green dot. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. And so again, as we get into this here, my Sig P365XL with the Holosun 507K X2. So the HS507K X2 has been just a phenomenal, fantastic, and literally perfect red dot for me. It has all the features that I need, the battery life that I need, and the performance that I need. But as I mentioned, I've been kind of working through some, footage and reviews and impressions of other firearms here, in particular my Sig P322, which I've been kind of working on, using, getting to the range. I've been getting a lot of rounds through this, but I want to get a red dot mounted to this. And in a very similar way, well, here the Canik Mete SFT. Both of these firearms I've done an initial look and initial impressions, but at this point I've been getting some good quality range time. And both of these are optics cut. So the slides are optics cut. And well, if I'm going to be complete in a use and, just impressions video, after all of my use, I do want to leverage a red dot. I want to take advantage of the fact that I bought firearms that are optics ready and optics cut on the slide. And so again, that's exactly where the Crimson Trace RAD, or in other words, Rapid Aiming Dot Micro Pro Green, comes into play. And so again, keep in mind the fact that today's video is just a first look and first impression, getting this unboxed, taking a look at it, kind of figuring things out, and then the future videos will actually be the field use footage of my firearms. So you will get to see this in plenty of field use if you're interested, but not quite yet today. Now you can see a very nice presentation box. I am actually very happy with, and I'm going to say the Crimson Trace brand. What you might not realize is Crimson Trace is part of the American Outdoor Brands. So they are a larger, just sort of like a larger conglomerate. It's not just about Crimson Trace itself, rather all the other brands beneath them. And I have a number of other brands' products that are under the American Outdoor Brands umbrella. And so as we break this thing out of jail, it's kind of a little bit of a bummer to have to break the box open like this. Maybe there was another way to go about it, but, for me, I like to keep my packaging somewhat intact, just from the standpoint that for whether it's resale value or just, the posterity of having the, packaging whole, I don't always like breaking things open, but it looks like here I'm kind of stuck with that. And actually, I lied. I was able to kind of jimmy and maneuver this off. So word to the wise, if you're careful, that will just comes straight off of the top. So not a big deal. At least I didn't rip things completely apart. Now, as we get into all of the goodies on the inside, very nicely done in terms of everything I'm going to need. So first and foremost, of course, I do get the micro dot. Again, this is the green. So I love the green. I think for general acquisition, that works well. We'll get into all of the features of this very soon. You get your user's manual, cool sticker, a nice silicone cover, which is awesome. It's nice having these, especially for storage. If you ever do keep your sort of red dots, disassembled and off of the firearm, but having that is definitely nice. A small suite of screws, so we do need to be very careful about what we use, especially where we're threading into a cut slide. You do, when you can, want to use factory screws from the firearm, not from the optic. So we do need to pay very close attention to the details here. Comes with a battery, cleaning cloth, and a small tool for your elevation and windage adjustments. This is, in essence, simply a hex key, but the fact that it comes with exactly what you need is kind of nice. Taking a look at the inside, you'll notice this is zip tied right to the packaging, so that will need to be removed. And so at this point, you can see removing it from the package, very, very small. Again, obviously a micro dot. So, whether or not you call it a red dot or, a green dot, regardless, this is a reflex style sight, which is just beautifully made. Now, again, Crimson Trace calling this the RAD or rapid aiming dot. I don't see that being any different than any other dot in my personal opinion, but I guess they say it's rapid, so you should be able to pick up on this fairly quickly. Very light, all things considered, in a very small and compact package. Now, one of my initial impressions right when I look at this, how beautiful that glass is. Just gorgeous. Very, very nice on the glass. Extremely clear at an initial glimpse. So, of course, this is an ultra compact design, typically made for subcompact pistols. As I mentioned, I am going to use this for a couple of different cases, both on the sort of compact, or I'd say sort of mid-sized, and then a slightly larger frame. So I'm going a little bit against the grain, but that's for a specific reason. Again, going back to the lens, this does have a multi-coated lens, and they're calling this a large acquisition window, which I guess, again, at an initial glimpse, doesn't look any bigger than my Holosun, but maybe it is a little bit wider. It's not much taller, but I would say it is wider. Now, it's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but in the front, and I will point at it here with the tool, right there is an ambient light sensor. So this does have the ability to auto dim. This also has what they call their CT motion sensor, which does detect your movement. So the nice thing is this is auto on and auto off. So whenever this detects motion, this will go into the auto on, and then after about 2 minutes of no movement, it will automatically turn off, which is awesome in its ability to help preserve battery life. And of course, as we mentioned, batteries, well, that's going to be a big difference between the Holosun and the Crimson Trace. You'll notice this is a bottom loading battery, which to some people is a complete turnoff. To me, it is a complete turnoff with one exception. Being, I already told you, my plan is to take this off and put it on different firearms pretty much all the time. I might find that I get to the point where with a particular firearm, like say for example, we'll use my Sig P365XL for a minute here. Like maybe at some point in time, I decide I want to run this with a dedicated red dot. I will probably at that point get one for it, but I can tell you it probably won't be this Crimson Trace, because this one to me is the one I'm going to transfer from gun to gun to gun. This is going to be my workhorse. This is going to do a huge amount of my field testing and my impressions with other firearms. And so this will probably not be a big deal if the battery's on the bottom, because I'll have the ability to change this out regularly, which if you listen to many experts will say, and it makes perfect sense, once you start loosening the bolts and moving this around, you can't trust your zero anymore. And that is the exact reason why with my Sig P365 I have specifically dedicated to the Holosun HS507K, and that is just going to live here pretty much forever, and I don't see a reason to necessarily change it, and that's because, of course, as I mentioned many a times, this is my carry firearm. Now, as we take a look at the footprint here, this is essentially what they're going to call a J-point footprint, or the Shield RMS footprint. And this should work well for me in most of my applications. You can certainly, if you need to, go with different adapters or plate adapters for your slide, depending on what you have it cut for. I don't think I'm going to have any problems. I will certainly find out in the future. Another great feature about the RAD Micro Pro, you'll notice as you take a look at the back here, this does have a notch, which allows you to leverage this as a rear sight and should co-witness well, but generally speaking, you would have the ability to lock this in with your front sights. So we'll see how that goes. Testing will tell. It'll be interesting to see exactly how this works for me and my particular firearms, but that is definitely a nice feature and awesome to have it on there. Also, keep in mind the fact that this is made of 7075 aerospace aluminum. So a little bit more heavy duty than some other models out there. Of course, some models are polymer housing. Some of them are even plastic on the actual lens itself, which I would never, ever personally want that. I want aluminum. I want glass. I want something that is going to last. I'd rather spend a little bit more money now and have something that's going to be quality moving into the future. So this does also, and you'll hear other reviewers actually talking about this, but what they call the top strap. So as you take a look over the top, you'll notice that it is a angled and beveled design. That is generally for strength. Anything with angles in it is going to be stronger than something that is completely flat. So again, as we compare against the Holosun is very wide across the top, but no angles. And then as we contrast that and compare it against the Crimson Trace, you can see a little smaller of a platform, a little more low profile, not quite as deep. And then it does have that angle on the top. Now, as we continue through the features, obviously you have your windage and your elevation adjustments. On the side here is going to be your windage. You can leverage, again, the tool that they supply. So with the supplied Allen tool, that's nice. So that will adjust both your elevation and your windage. So again, the windage being on the side and the elevation on top. Generally speaking, this is IPX4 water resistant, but unfortunately, again, the battery tray is fully exposed on the bottom. And at this point, we should probably install the battery, which this does come with a supplied 1632, so the CR1632. Keep in mind the fact that the side with the writing is the positive side. And as we take a look at the bottom, there is a negative symbol stamped in the underside. So I believe if we do this the right way, it should be positive side facing towards us, pressing down against this little spring. And at this point, that does set down and inside. As we get the camera into focus, you can see that micro dot on the inside. Now that is a 5 MOA green dot. So as you take a look there, you'll notice the dot, very refined. It's going to be hard for you on camera to really get a sense for this, and I will really only get a good sense for it once I get it mounted to a firearm. But again, as you take a look at the back of the optic, again, the camera is not going to pick this up quite the right way, but you can see as you take a look through the window there, starting to see that dot. And again, this should co-witness, so as I bring the dot into focus, you can see again, it is quite refined. And so at this point, that's pretty much a wrap on my first look and impression of this Crimson Trace RAD Micro Pro Rapid Aiming Dot 5 MOA and the green laser. Absolutely awesome. I cannot wait to get this into some field use. And so as I mentioned, I do expect to be getting this out into field use very, very soon. Now, a couple last things worth mentioning. This does have a little bit less battery life than some other units out there. A lot of companies talking about whether it's, 20,000 hours or something along those lines. This particular unit, well, more like 7,000 hours. I mean, the green, from what I've come to understand, does consume a little more battery than red in the first place. And of course, that does really matter depending on how bright you run it. It'll be interesting to see how everything mounts up. That will again come with my firearms review, and how this mates up with those particular handguns. We'll just have to see how that goes in the future. And of course, as I mentioned, those will be additional videos coming soon. So I do expect that after today, I'll be getting into some of that field use, getting these mounted on those pistols, getting to the range, putting rounds through it, and then at that point, I'll really know what to say about the Crimson Trace RAD Micro Pro. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. My first impressions video. As I mentioned a couple of times, much more to come. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you for following along. And if you enjoyed this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, backpacks, flashlights, you name it. That's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.